The regular basketball season has come to a close. Nebraska got one of their best wins of the year on the road at Iowa, completing the football basketball sweep, gentlemen, of the Hawkeyes.
Rivalry.
Doesn't that feel good?
It's been a while.
Yeah.
First win in Iowa City since 2012.
Were you at that game?
I was at that game.
God, you're getting old, Rob.
Tell me about it.
Rob, you're getting up there.
I'm well aware of this.
You're the old guy
you.
on the beat.
Thank you.
You've
Yes,
held up really well somehow.
I'm the grizzled veteran of the
You
Nebraska
don't look
basketball.
grizzled.
I'm getting more grizzled by the day. I'll tell you that much.
2012, you were there covering it?
Yeah, I've been covering this thing since 2008 for Sean.
You're
Yeah.
both getting up
I was
there.
in the Devaney. And
Yeah,
that
we
doesn't
are,
even count the DN days when I was there covering Barry Collier.
Our friend Gabe DeArmond at Power Mizzou, he always jokes. He's like, now I'm kind of viewed at like my dad, like he's his dad. And then like the guy from the Columbia papers, like the guy named Va that used to cover the St. Louis paper for him. And he's like, yeah, we're like the old guys now. That's how we feel too. Around.
So it's been a grind, but it's been fun.
Okay, so they get the win in Iowa, which I know you were surprised because you picked Iowa.
Yes, I picked them to win.
You picked them to cover
convincingly.
I think you picked them to win by 14.
14, I think.
You are the curse.
You picked them to win by 14?
It's not true. I picked Nebraska to beat Wisconsin. They beat Wisconsin.
So Nebraska won 6 of its last 8.
6 of last 8.
In the regular season, which does what for Fred Hoiberg and the program?
Well, for Fred, I think that the conversation of any questions about his job security as far as this offseason, that book's closed. Now it might be revisited if they completely fall off again next year. We'll see. I don't see that happening. But at least we got some clarity on that discussion to where like people wonder if Trev needs to put out a statement or anything. No,
nope.
Not to put out a statement. This basically answered itself with the way that they've been playing. And then, I think that this is the first sustained success Nebraska basketball has had in Big Ten conference play in a long time. And you got a lot of young guys that were part of that and benefited from that with their experience. And now they've tasted it, whereas before you'd get a win here or there. But now these guys know what it feels like to go on a run in the Big Ten and to have momentum going into the Big Ten tournament. So I think there's a lot of value in that, especially looking ahead to next season. Jamarcus Lawrence has played some winning basketball. Wilhelm Breidenbach, CJ Wilcher, maybe Keisei Tominaga if he comes back. So
Blaze Keita,
yeah.
Who else?
Who hasn't been playing much, but
Denham
Dawson, yeah. Jack Hoiberg, Sam
Hoiberg.
Sam
Can't
Hoiberg.
forget Sam Hoiberg.
So that I think is when you kind of take away from this run. Obviously, it's turned this season around and kind of put that carrot of potential postseason berth right there for the taking. But I think big picture, the benefit of this stretch for those younger players has been invaluable. And if, like I said, we're taping this on Tuesday, so we'll see what they do in Chicago and beyond. But they're going to get some postseason taste now. And then that experience is something they can build upon going into next year to where we talk about with football, having that core group that you supplement through the portal is the absolute way you want to do it, as opposed to going clean slate, all porter every single offseason.
Yeah, Robin, you're one of 2 Nebraska media voters for the All Big Ten team. I believe Kent Pavelka is the other one. And those aren't easy to do. I've done football before. I know Sipple's done football before. And those teams are hard because there's a lot of close calls. And to kind of clarify, you get to select 10 people, right?
Right. So you select 10 players in order. And I think where they're selected, they get more points based off of that. So 10 for the first team, 10 for the second team. And so like when they release it, there are 3 teams. There's a first, second, third. You only vote for 2. And then based on where they're picked with the points, it all kind of averages out. Yeah. So, and then you get 1 vote for player of the year, freshman of the year, coach of the year.
Did your ballot hold out? I mean, any big
transparencies? Like I said, there's 6 guys on the first team. So like
the media, just go by the media.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. So so like the 5 guys I picked all made it. I didn't have Boo Buie on the first team or Hunter Dickinson. I had Jameer Young first team. He ended up second. So there was some differences, but there was a lot of obvious ones.
Did you have Walker on the second?
Yep, I had Walker second. So I had him 4th overall on the second team. So I guess 14th overall.
When you could only pick 10 players, Tominaga, it's hard to, people, a lot of talk about Keisei Tominaga not making these teams, but when you can only do 10, it's really hard to justify him from wire to wire as one of the 10 best guys. Right?
He didn't do anything the first half of the season. He was just a bench guy playing spot minutes with a couple of here and there double-digit scoring performances. So you kind of got to separate what he did during this late season turnaround versus the whole overall body of work. That a lot of these other guys that made the team were far more consistent from start to finish. So it's he got honorable mention from both coaches and media. I guess maybe you could make the case, but you look at the guys that are on that second and third team. Who do you take off? Every one of those guys are in their spots.
So I got to ask you. I might as well ask you because you're going to be getting asked this a lot. How soon will we know about Tominaga?
Yeah.
You're going to be asked that a lot.
Yeah. So the conversations, I would assume, usually what happens is once the season comes to a close, and so we don't know when that's going to be. If they end up making the NIT, then it's going to prolong it even further. But after the season is officially over and done, a lot of times they take a week and have guys just kind of do their thing. Everybody regroups, and then they come back and start doing individual coach-player one-on-one meetings. And so that, I think, is going to be when Hoiberg and the assistant coaches and other people involved with Nebraska's athletic department, NIL collectives, all kind of put together the reasons why he should come back. And then they're going to match that up with the reasons why he should move on and take a pro career in Japan. So that all will happen, like I said, within the next maybe 2, maybe 3 weeks after the end of the season.
Okay.
They're going to have some long conversations. I'm sure that both parties are already starting to figure things out now, but the real tangible discussions aren't going to happen until at least a week or two after the season.
Okay.
Robin, will Sam Hoiberg go on scholarship?
It depends. I mean, if they have an open spot, yeah, but he's a guy that they have the luxury of. He doesn't necessarily need to be on scholarship, but
Obviously,
yeah. I mean, but he's certainly earned it. I mean, with the minute, he's like one of their first guys off the bench right now, and he's giving them really productive minutes, making big plays to help them win games. So I don't think anybody would argue it, but if you have the opportunity to give those scholarships to other players while still retaining Sam Hoiberg as a walk-on, that's the ideal situation.
And let's talk big picture. I don't want to get NCAA tournament discussion, but in order to host an NIT home game, because I think we both agree they're going to be in the NIT. Do you think they got to win 1 or 2 to get a host?
Well, going into the tournament, they're already projected to host right now, and a lot of that has to do with what's happened in these other conference tournaments.
Projection of beating Minnesota.
Yeah. So I think if you beat Minnesota, you're in for sure. That ends the NIT conversation. Then beyond that is the debate of whether or not they host. So you beat Minnesota, I think you're in a very good spot to host, especially given where they are going into the tournament. You add another win on top of that. There is the NCAA doesn't like to say it, but the money is a factor when it comes to seeding. Obviously, they want to make it look like it's all based off record, but when you have a Nebraska sitting there with that resume, plus you're guaranteed to get 10,000 plus, and it's going to make great TV. It's going to sell a bunch of tickets, and it's going to be a really attractive home matchup for that first round. There's a lot of value there. So I think that will work in Nebraska's favor to some degree, as long as they take care of business against Minnesota and can keep themselves in that situation.
I mean, they just get killed in the net ranking, though. No matter what, it's like when they win a game, they go down in the net,
Well, because they keep winning close, and that's not offsetting the blowout losses that they had earlier in the year. I mean, they had multiple double-digit losses this season that have really crippled them, especially earlier in the year. So yes, they've really turned it on, and I don't agree that those metrics from November should be equally weighted as what you're doing in February and March. But that's just me. But that's kind of how the formula is written out. So the good news is when it comes to NCAA tournament seeding, the net is just a guideline. When it comes to the committee picking teams, they're going to lean far more heavily on the KPI, which is Nebraska's in the 60s right now, and strength of record, which Nebraska is also in the 60s. So they are significantly higher in metrics that the committee is going to look at far more than what the net is
ask
showing.
yourself this too: how many teams in the Big Ten, Robin, could go 6-2 over that stretch Nebraska played? And there are a lot. I mean, that's not easy to do in this league. I mean, there'd be a lot of 5-3s and 4-4s, But 6-2 is about as good as you're going to see anybody in the Big Ten do over an 8-game stretch.
When they won those 4 in a row, that at the time was the longest winning streak in the conference. So, I mean, just winning 4 in a row is rare. I mean, look at Purdue. Like,
look at the final conference
That's
standings.
what I'm
Like
saying.
12 wins got you second place, right?
No team just ran the table. And so, that's what makes Purdue's case for Matt Painter being coach of the year. He didn't. Chris Collins got it from Northwestern, but Painter was the one guy that, they finished a 3-game lead in that conference with that type of parity. So
did you vote for Painter?
I voted for Collins.
Oh, you did.
And,
they drilled Nebraska. When they came in here.
and a lot of that had to do with where they were projected. I mean, they far surpassed anything that they were supposed to do, whereas Purdue did what it was supposed to do.
Most disappointing team in the league is Michigan.
Ooh.
Rutgers. How about Rutgers?
Rutgers has really fallen off. The thing is, they're still probably going to make the tournament.
Why'd you have to go Rutgers?
Yeah, Rutgers is in that conversation. I don't
Michigan-
want to say Wisconsin.
Will Michigan make the tournament?
Why don't you want to say Wisconsin?
Right now? No.
Why don't you want to say Wisconsin playing on the first day of the Big Ten tournament?
Yeah.
Or would you say Ohio State is the most disappointing?
Yeah, that's the one.
Ohio
State.
Yeah.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Yes, because of where they were. I mean, they were top 25 team at one point, and then they just completely fell off. Now, they had injuries, but so did Nebraska. Nebraska found a way to do it. Whereas, I mean, Ohio State's playing better lately, but man, they were going through it for a while there. So yes, as far as like where they were projected to be, where they started the season, and how much they fell off, the answer is Ohio State.
Ohio State.